Our next presentation will be by the Line of Goodwill team. We have here Torkil, Judith, Jaya, and Louis. And I will hand over to Torkil.
Okay, on behalf of the team, I will just introduce the project a bit, and then I will hand it over to other of the members. I'll first talk a bit about why this project came up, because it's actually a project that have taken nearly 5 years by now. A lot of energy and a lot of people have worked on it. Also a lot of architects from Auroville, both Helmut, Lalit, and Shailaja have been part of this team, and Anupama has been very much part of the team. Also external architect companies from Mumbai have been part of the team. So a huge amount of work have gone into this. It's maybe also a project that has been misunderstood a bit, in the sense that this team have only tried to prepare the ground for this. Whatever has come out of drawings, we have never ever gone into buildings. A lot of people in Auroville already have imagined the buildings and have an opinion about it, but we have never ever said how it should be designed. We have always meant that this should come up for an architect competition, so it's never been anybody else. That's maybe the other. I understood for some other architect that they thought that it was Anupama who's going to build this. Anupama has been part of this team, but it has never been that she was going to design it. It's just to make few things very clear. Maybe when I tell the story here, I will just run a drone movie we took. This is from the visitor center side. This is just the parking lot. If you just run it now, it takes 5 minutes. It's a drone movie that actually moves along where the line of Goodwill is supposed to be, or the line 1, as it's also called. What's interesting when you see the movie, I can tell it is that is even if you go up in 50, 60 meter height with the drone here, you actually don't see any buildings in Auroville. And you don't even see Matrimandia, which actually comes to a little bit of surprise to many people who think that Matrimandia is so visible. Even in 65 meter height, you will just see a little yellow top on top of the trees. And one of the reasons is also this area is actually 10 meter lower than Matrimandia. This project actually came out from different angles, and it was actually merging different parts of Auroville, actually all the aspects of Auroville in a way. Now we are actually crossing into Aurodam area, and this time it was taken last year, I think, after the rainy season, so Aurodam is actually full of water. So 5 years ago, I come from the income generating activities. I worked a lot with the units in Auroville, and we saw a need for that the existing visitor center have done a good job with the money they had, but there was no space enough for all the other units. And actually at that time they took a lot of units out of the showrooms in the visitor center because there were too many units. So there was a lot of pressure for units to establish themselves elsewhere, and that Auroville did not allow them any place. There was an idea to make a center at the Kulapalliam Road on Auroville land, but actually outside Auroville. And we worked a lot on it. It was a center that would cost 25 lakhs and give a lot of crores and give a lot of space for a lot of units. But eventually we saw that why put all this energy into developing something outside Auroville. And then it was actually Nicole from Visitor Center who told there was actually an old plan that there should be, that one of the lines should actually be a new kind of welcome center. So, and then we also met people from Matrimandias who was actually at that time working a lot, that they had to design the new reception center, that the new, the only entrance to Matrimandia garden and will have a reception center, and that was already part of that line. It has always been planned that it was part of line number 1. And Louis from the Habitat here was just finished Sunship at that time, and he said, I want to do something much bigger. So these 3 energies came together, tried to work on this, because you could in some way say it was a bit stupid because line number 1 is by far the longest and by far the biggest, and so why start with that one? It's a little bit, why do that? But it's actually because it integrates all the aspects of Auroville. It integrates the welcoming part, it integrates the living zone, the habitat center, and it integrates Matrimandia. And that building for Matrimandia is extremely important, and Judith will tell about that a little bit later, because it is actually we are coming into. It's beautiful in the morning, huh? Yeah. It integrates all aspects of Auroville, this building, and it's also the main corridor for all the traffic in, because it's the only line that actually touches the outside, and it's also the line that holds all the visitors. We had close to at least before Corona, and we'll probably come back again, we have close to 1 million visitors now, and they all have to follow that line in. So it's that intersection between this line and the Crown Road is, of course, of very utmost importance. So we started working, and first we approached the existing TDC at that time and said, we just want a site permission. And of course they didn't want to do that. They say, we can't do that. I said, you were there. And we said, why not? Because we just want to build the master plan, so why not give us site permission? But after some time, we came to some kind of agreement that we had an agreement that we could at least do a study of this line. We found it a little bit funny that it was called a feasibility study, and we found it a little bit funny that you had to do a feasibility study of the master plan. But that's how it came out. So we made first a study. Lalit made a huge study of all the data, and afterwards TDC asked us to take a consultant from outside, and Anupama, together with Badli Boy, a large architect company in Mumbai, came in, and they did another study, which from Mumbai architect side says this is actually the DDP for this area. We started out quite well with TDC in the sense that they actually arranged a meeting with the Aurodam. Aurodam is where the building crosses through. Maybe I'll just tell you here. This is a kind of, you can see this is Matrimandia. We have put the lake in, so we are a little bit ahead. And this here is the park. This is the visitor center parking. So this is where this line goes. And this is the reception center, which is needed, and here you have the Crown Road. So this is where you see it all in a way. The huge study was done. I came to take, this is Aurodam, it all goes through. And TDC arranged the meeting with Aurodam people, and of course they were not very enthusiastic about having this building going through Aurodam, but actually they didn't resist. They actually told us clearly that if that's the part, if that's the master plan, okay. But they wanted to be part of it, and they wanted to have a say in it, which is okay. So it actually surprisingly started very good. But then I think TDC got a bit of cold feet, and they didn't know what to do, and so it all ended with a lot of work and actually not in much. It's actually got blocked in many ways. It's still there. I think the whole DDP is more or less made. I think Judy will tell more about, because that intersection is of course very critical, because you will have 1 million people who have to come in through this line, or at least, and they will have to cross the Crown Road in a way that they don't go into it, because these people are actually supposed not to flow into Auroville as such.
Good morning, everybody. I am Judith, and it has so happened that this project is very, very close to my heart. There was a time when we were being asked at Matrimandia to find solutions to what we were going to do at the point where the lake was finished. And we had to find a way to remove all those temporary buildings that are right now on the site of Matrimandia. We were very much being pushed by planning to find a way to deal with the access aspects of that work. So in the design of Matrimandia, there is this aspect, which is right up there, which is the reception pavilion, which is part of the very original plans from Roger of the Matrimandia. And we also have, so a reception pavilion implies that you're going to receive there all the people who are coming to Matrimondir. But years and years of experience, as he rightly mentions, 1 million visitors, it shows us that we absolutely do not want to be receiving at this point these kind of visitors. That's not how it can possibly work. So in our vision of the thing, we were trying to figure out, first of all, the viewing point that exists at the moment for this large number of visitors will disappear into the lake. So something has to happen also to replace the viewing point. We spent many weeks trying to find a way to transit all these visitors, and every time we looked at the map, we were told, you can't go there, it's the line of force number 1. It's off limits, it's marked on the master plan. And in there was a moment where there was a sort of epiphany, which I realized, but that's exactly what we do have to use. This is the way that Roger has actually implied within the master plan that there is access from the ring road all the way to Matrimondir. But obviously, it's a very sensitive situation. So we immediately said, right now, the vast majority of visitors are received and filtered at the visitor center. As time went on, of course, the Gateway project came into view and we merged on that. But for us, we were just thinking, visitor center right now for us, or pro-COVID, was a bit of a makeshift. We were always a little bit rubbing shoulders there to deal with all this vast number of visitors coming to Matrimondir. So what we needed was a purpose-built hub to do the kind of work that we're doing at Visitor Center that was self-contained. And in the vision of the line of Force 1, we envisaged it somewhere here, beyond the Oradam Perenbrook land, with bridges crossing the Perenbrook land. And there we would have a proper hub for filtering and dealing with the people. What it implies within the whole line of Force 1 is that the viewing point problem could and perhaps should be resolved by simply putting all this viewing up on the roof of this building, because the building is supposed to be ground plus 1 to 18. It's low at the Matrimondir end and high at the Ring Road end. So we thought, well, if we can channel all the visitors onto the roof, there will be a good viewing point for them, and they won't be impinging in any way on the rest of Auroville. They'll be really canalized. But then we have also the visitors who really we are accepting to come into the Garden of Unity, the Park of Unity, into the Matrimondir itself. So how to deal with them? Because there's this big filtration will be happening here, and then how are we going to get them there? Replacing all these dusty buses that we're running up and down all the time, and making something that's... we wanted to create what we call a public transit system for these visitors that was already in its conception, a system that would calm people down from the state in which they arrive in the car park to the readiness to enter the Park of Unity and to arrive in the chamber in a frame of mind that is conducive to the very best reception for them. So we weren't satisfied with any of the things we saw of trams and, I don't know, we saw all kinds of things. So we even actually had a little thought, and we even came up with a design of our own. It's only a concept design, there's no engineering in it, which would give people a sense of calming down, of separation. So this is very crucial when we think about where we're intersecting with the crown, because We don't want a level crossing. We already see what it means to have a level crossing now. So this means that at least at ground +1, maybe even ground +2, there will be a flyover. It will be bridged, the crown will be bridged, so that people can be transported. The viewing points were envisaged to have one on the roof just this side of the crown, the outer side of the crown, and the second one at that other yellow spot that you can see there. These two yellow spots actually indicate viewing points, okay, on the roof. So the system would be that visitors, even visitors who are even expected to arrive all the way inside the Park of Unity and into Matrimondia, will be being channelized at ground +1. Visitors going to viewing points will have to be well integrated and design their means of transit to arrive at the viewing points. And as this entrance, this bridge across the lake here, is the only entrance for people coming to the Park of Unity and to Matrimondia. Here at the crown, where the intersection is, there has to be an entrance at that point at ground level for all the residents, whoever they are, within Auroville, to make their journey by foot or maybe, I don't know, moving sidewalk or something, to arrive at the reception center, the reception pavilion, where a sort of last reception is made. Hand over your bags, hand over your cell phones. You're lacking mobility. Here you can get the electric car, things like this, means of accessibility. All these things would be set up there within the reception pavilion itself. But the reception pavilion is definitely an integral part. It's very nice if you look at the drawings that Roger made for the reception pavilion, that he has little railway lines going through it. So he had the same idea that we did about some sort of public transit system taking people to the reception pavilion. So only other thing that I really want to express about the whole of the line of force is that in our dreaming, you are dreaming, but we were dreaming, is that this building should be incredibly environmentally sustainable. It should be totally ecological, not only when it's finished, but the way it's built. We were very, very clear about this. We don't want to do this in an unconscious way. The whole thing should be, we should be putting our very highest aspirations not only into what we produce, but how we produce this structure. And we were very, this was a really deep aspiration of ours, that it should be created in a way that we would all be really proud of and not be ashamed of.
I just want to add something about the gateway, because as Judith says, the gateway was also supposed to handle all the guests coming in. It was actually supposed to be an active or a kind of intelligent filtering, which says that only people who has a need to pass this point should pass on. We actually did a lot of work, which we also will hand over to the Dreamweaving team. We saw a big need to make a visitor policy in Auroville, that we don't have much idea about how we will handle all this info. You asked this question, why do we have these 1 million people coming in? I think from our side, we saw it also from Matrimondia's side, says it is a public place. You have to allow Indians to come into this place, but you have to do it in such a way that it makes the least disturbance. But you can't just block it off and say, no, it's not possible. So the gateway was meant like a lightning rod. It should actually take as much energy from this inflow, because we already now have had before weekends where 10,000 people are coming, and this is a huge amount of energy which is like that. So the whole idea of the gateway was that it should be a much better visitor center, with showcasing whatever Auroville could do. It will have the shop, the restaurant. It was also planned to have a hotel, because actually Matrimandia's idea now is that people who actually get access to the chamber have to stay 1 day more. So that means these people actually have to have a place. They could stay in the guest houses, but in many cases it would be better let them stay there. And the idea was actually, that was our dream, was that the top of this building would be a meditative garden where you actually can spot Matrimandia in the distance. But it was meant also to take these people's energy out. You don't have to go in. It's enough to go there and see what is there. You don't have to penetrate all the way in. So it was actually meant in many ways to handle this energy, which can be difficult to handle, but which we have to handle, because we can't just close it out. So we have to find a way to handle it. One of the main problems in these very lines of all, this line is actually 800 meter long. And of course, we cannot imagine to build it in one go. And that has been one of the big planning problems, is how to bite that, because it has to be built in phases. And we saw first a phase of building a reception per building and the gateway, and then build a part of the habitat. But it will take many years to build it, and it had to be chopped up in pieces, and it will be different architect who did it. So the whole work for this line of force was actually to make the comprehensive study of this, and then hand it over to many, many different parts, because it might be built in 5, we already mentioned 5 sectors, but there might be many, many different architects working on it, but the final building should be kind of working together. So that has been one of the big problems. And I think that has been one of the problems of these lines, that if we had a lot of small building, it would be much easier for us to chew. So the lines have always been a bit of a problem to chew into.
Hello, my name is Louis, for the people who do not know me, and I am a developer. I have been doing Citadine, and La Maison des Jeunes, and Sunship, and Terrain Mata. And really, when I finished Sunship, I felt the growth of the population is going so slow that really we have to go fast and to start by big project. And so the first phase of the line of goodwill will be for 500 people, and there will be simultaneously different phase, because all the line of goodwill will be for 8,000 people. And we need really to have people to come and live in Auroville with Auroville spirit. And the idea that we have the experiment of Citadine as well Sunship is to have a lot of common space shared, as we have the art center, as we have a cafeteria, a Citadine, a workshop to maintain the place. It could have a conference room. It could have a kindergarten. It's almost a city in the city. Little by little, all the common space for the 8,000 people will be developed according to the growth of the place. And of course, we will work a lot on the materials that we are going to use to have the maximum of ecological material. We are planning, of course, to have all the roof partly of solar panels and urban farming to be able to feed the people living there, and to be able to give the energy from the solar directly to give there. And we'll, of course, recuperate the rainwater to do this. So it's very important to go on this. And, of course, the habitat will pass over the Crown Road. So there will be a link between the habitat and Crown Road. Voilà, mes amis.
For the Crown Road, because the existing road which passes by, which actually lies in the lake now, might come down very fast if Matrimandia proceeds fast. If the Crown Road comes, they probably want to take that road down, because that road that passes Matrimandia fence and the existing entrance have been a pain in the ass, sorry to say like that, for Matrimandia a long time because of the dust. So they would like to take it down as fast as possible. So the Crown Road would very fast make a change if it came. And the other thing I would say about this line, that even if that junction is very tricky and very important, it doesn't come that fast, because if you imagine to build it in phases with the reception pavilion, maybe the gateway, and then the first part of the habitat, it will take quite some years before we reach to be able to cross the Crown Road. So it's not that the Crown Road has to come immediately for this project. And then I would say, because I have to do something for this project, it could be a very beautiful project to do because it integrates everything in Auroville in a way, and it could take a lot of the load of developing spotlights all over Auroville, that you focus all the development just in one go, in one area. And all the land is there, except for the land for the reception pavilion. There's a few spots of land that have been pending for many years, but the rest of the land is there. And actually, when you walk the line of force, it has been very well protected by TTC. There's not a single house within 100 meters of this place. So there's not any issues of... I must say, TTC has protected the lines very, very well. Yeah.
So my name is Jaya, and I would like to say a few words about why I have been so involved in this project. It has to do with environment, it has to do with the social environment, and it has to do with the development which we see happening around us and in India. I've been in Auroville almost 40 years now, and I have seen what is happening in our surroundings, how fast it goes also at the present. When I drive to Chennai, I have observed over a number of years now, the high-rise coming up very fast. And I know what high-rise means to live in. We can even see in Auroville, where we have even 3 or 4 floors, that often you have the stairwell and you have the flats on the sides, and I know what it means to live in places like that. In India, I would say, now I'm just doing an assumption, no? But we have now, I think it's the middle class who moves into these places. These children don't go mainly to the government schools, which means they will be in schools which don't have big areas. So they move between 2 environments where they are not in contact with nature practically at all, how the cities looks, no? Also, I have seen in Auroville, and I have lived in Sweden in some places which were not built specifically for collective development, but somehow developed like that. And because I lived in 2 areas, right neighbor, I could see the extreme difference which what happened with people depending on how the place was developed. So I have seen that when it comes to collective living, there are some things which are very important, which actually the environment creates collective living, or the environment doesn't create it, no? Standard, same, etc., but this is a big difference. So so there is the thing about how do you create, we need to have density. I have lived, as many of you know, in Jaya many years, built my own house with earth blocks, one of the first houses built with earth blocks in Auroville, 2 stories, and had solar through the years from the beginning. So that was very charming and very attractive and very ecological, so-called. But I have from the beginning always said, when people spoke with me about it, this is not an ecological setup with the solar the way we have it. It is not sustainable in any context in the world today for one family to have this huge setup with batteries and huge cost. It's not something you can apply. And if we talk about human unity, whatever we develop have to be applicable on the wide scale. So for me, this gateway, I actually heard about it within a few days on a walk with Judith when she said, is this a crazy idea? And it was like, no, this is it. We can actually tackle so many things. We can have a reception, because I work with Unity Pavilion, and I had spoken years ago with Aryamani, how do we do something for visitors which moves like a kind of a stream with exhibitions and things like that. Nothing happened like with so many things in Auroville, but how do we make a reception which actually is interactive, inclusive, educational, so that every single one of those million people who come here, because they are coming, no, and there will be more of them, we can't stop that, no. How do each one bring something out? How do classes of children come, not just rambling up the road to the viewing point, but actually learn things that they take with them? And a place where you can move so much, which goes from more interactive and up in more and more silent space. You have more meditation and concentration places than Matrimandi. You can get a taste of what the petals are, what it means to be in silence. You can use music. We do so much. You are looking at research on this building level, but we do so much research in Auroville in so many different ways. How do we make all this accessible? For me, it's a gift back to India somehow. That's what I always feel. So that is with the visitors. Then if we can make, because we are actually, I would say, the only ones who can make a place like this, which is available to people. People come to Unity Pavilion, they say, oh, what a beautiful space. So I say, you see, where in the world can you use a space like this without being very, very rich? You can do that in India. And in Auroville, no? So can we build this high-rise? Because we need density. If we look at, anything I read about the elephants and the tigers or whatever, if we don't give space for afforestation, for nature, then they get less and less, because we are the most adaptable species, which is great, but we are also the most invasive species, which really hurts whatever is around us. So can we use our consciousness, and consciously, because we can actually create the spaces where we live in much smaller spaces, where we condense, and we can make it super beautiful and super good. We don't need to each one have a house, big house in the garden to have space. We can actually, by our consciousness, create this in a different way. And these things are what really calls me to this project, because I would like us to make this high-rise, this is a hillscape, so you don't have that big thing which is like that. It goes on the sides up. Here it goes like this. So this is something Rocher came up with long time ago, which architects now very cutting edge are working with in the world today, no? So how we can do this. From what I have understood in following the discussions within our group, here you can work up to 4th level with earth, and then you can have the part that goes up, you can have in very light construction that you basically assemble, no? How do we create within this? This is space for 8,000 people to live. And Auroville needs to expand. And if we expand 8,000 people here, we leave. We can leave things. If we're going to do houses and garden, there's no space left and no space for the really wild animals. I don't know. Because it's just eating up the space with what we want in our surroundings, sort of, no? So I think what Islam was saying this morning about where is this movement between the very wild and what is garden-like. This we can move, and we can minimize it, because here we have green inside the house, and we create villages. We do the research, how do you create villages of living, and how do you do it with diversity? And I don't have the numbers, but I know that you guys have it. This is basically 0.5% green, 0.5% open spaces, collective spaces. So even if I have a small space for myself, the 30 or 40 square meters as suggested in the original drawings and like that, I have access to all the rest, and I have access to the roofs. And all the buildings are interconnected, or there are different architects, but the parameters are that you can move, you can cycle, you can do all this. And if we can do this, we are actually doing something, for me, for India also, because we can shift what is happening outside. That's going to only be shifted outside by very rich people in very much with that type of abundance, no? We want to do it with simplicity and abundance, but really, like Judith say, from the beginning, from how we build, the people that build, the working force, it has integrality. And one thing more I want to add, which is also for me part of it, is the fact that when they were buying the lands in Auroville, they promised that the people would have work. And yes, we have given work. But today, by Auroville, for me, by India's own development, but by Auroville also, in this area, all the kids are educated. They need different kind of work. I see the young women who are engineers and now are working in different places in Auroville because they can't get jobs. If we do start to build a city and we do this, we have jobs for the people. And there will be jobs for qualified people within these spaces. It's no more amas and gardeners. And I think that is really, really important in our commitment. So these are, I think, some of the main reasons why I have been deeply involved in this, and from the beginning. And in the retreat, I actually put this on the table already. In our internal notes, it was mentioned, but in the notes which went out to the community, it was taken out. No, but it's actually been here that long in process. And we have all been pooling together. The research that has been mentioned does not come for free. And we have all been pooling our internal resources to do that. And I think that's how Auroville works, and it's really amazing. Thank you.
Any questions? Okay.
Starting with what Fabian actually said, is the 1 million visitors. It strikes me as weird that we are actually creating infrastructure for 1 million visitors when the mother said that there should be no day tourists in Auroville or no day visitors. So it's kind of weird. Anyway, I don't know.
Is that a question? Or?
Yeah, it's a question,
Okay.
of course.
Will you answer this about how, first of all, I tried to stress that Auroville should have made a visitor policy long time ago. We made the initial search rate, we can hand over that to you. We made interviews with all the partners from the security to visitor center to Matrimandia. We have made the statistics for people coming when they are coming. And for example, I can tell you when we interviewed Auroville security, they said, please make a policy. We are totally lost because we don't know what to do. There are so many different telling to us what to do. When we stand there, try to stop people, we don't know what to do. Please make a visitor policy. Nobody have done it. We said to TDC, we will try to start that work. TDC said, no, this is our job, we will do it. But then it never happened. I think a visitor policy is very much needed, and your question falls into that. How do we handle visitors? The first thing that came out when we talk about it is that visitors are many things. That you talk about a day tourist that just want to see the golden ball, that's one thing. But then there are visitors on many, many levels, visitors who want to know more about Auroville, the visitors who have a genuine interest. And you could say they should, that's what we call intelligent filtering. They should be handled in different ways. There was earlier a team, I can't remember what that was called, there was a welcome group that tried to actually work on this, to make a desk available where people could come, where this filtering could take place. And we have not worked on that at all. And we are actually just ignoring these people. We say they don't exist, they're outside. And in some ways, the visitors center has said that their job is actually to handle this, so Auroville don't see them. I don't think it's fair, and a lot of other people have actually said to me that we came to Auroville as a tourist the first time. So how are we to judge which people have a genuine interest or not? I'm advocating for that we should find a way to have an intelligent filtering. You could say the gateway is very much part of that the most part of the people come should actually stay there. And you have enough interesting things going on, so the day is gone and they will leave. Right now, they all try to penetrate in somehow. So it is how to handle this. We can't decide that these 1 million people should go away, and then if you see the trend of numbers, which of course is stalled by Corona now, they are just rising and rising with 10% every year. We will soon need 2 million people. And we can't say go away. It's not going to work. We have to find a way to handle in a decent way, because we are in India and these people have a right to come here. So we have to find a way that this can take place in a way that is decent for both us and for them. But how we do it, I'm not the full one to answer, but I'm just advocating make a visitors policy. It's a very, very urgent need.
Thank you. The second question would be, with this gateway and this line of force, goodwill, you're basically, making a commercial hub, and to me it looks like you're monetizing on the visitors and Matrimandir. I'm just sort of uncomfortable with that, as a sense of, is that what Matrimandir is supposed to represent? To be commercialized? Maybe we make keychains instead, I don't know. Question, I don't expect an answer.
No, I would like to answer. Yeah. Sure.
Make it
For
short,
sure,
please,
we don't want to commercialize Matrimandir at all. You could say Auroville units is a big part of Auroville economy. So actually to say we should be not commercial at all is also very difficult. We have to find a way to handle these aspects together. For sure, we should not commercialize Matrimandia, and I think in all the discussions we had in our group with Matrimandia together with us, we found a very, very nice way of handling these things that did not disturb any of us. I can tell you Matrimandia is very, very, very strict about this issue. So it is actually, the gateway is actually, in this geographically, it's actually isolated because there's a canyon that goes through, so it's actually very well positioned that you actually have a kind of geographical protection. So this kind of what I call intelligent filtering can take place. You could say that the gateway will be in a certain way commercial, and I don't see any problem in that because our units are commercial, and that's how a lot of income to Auroville comes. So you can't ignore that fact either. It would be a little bit of illusion also. If you,
Okay, so we are going to try and have one question per person, and if there are any, if a person has more questions, we can come in the second round once the questions have run out.
You had a phone hand up before. Did you still have a question? Did you have a question? Yes.
I'm a little confused on the stage the project is on, because at some point you mentioned that it would be like really open to architects to come up with the proposals, but at some point you did mention about a DDP being there. So just a little clarification on that. That is all my question is about.
I think we have made the groundwork. We have never been into architecture. The DDP has to come from TDC. It cannot come from us. I think we have made a lot of works which can go into this project, and I think the DDP for this sector could easily be done. But it's not up to us to do it. We have only thought about how this could be broken up into pieces. And we for sure always thought that it would be up to many different architects to work on this. This is not one architect project, and in any way it will take quite many years to build. And that's the main problem of that building, is actually how to make a coherent building out of that afterwards, when many people have been weaving on the same thing. It's a huge Dreamweaving project in itself, and it's also a weaving project afterwards to build it. And that's a challenge, and that may be the big challenge why the lines of force never have really been taken off, because if there had been a lot of small buildings, it would have been much easier. I don't know if that is enough to... We don't know either how. It is in 5 sectors in the planning we have done, but that can be broken up into many more. And I think it's a lot of work for many architects to design that building.
I think David is keeping track of the names.
Yeah, very quick. Manu asked a question about the relationship of the line of goodwill and the crown, and we are here mostly starting with the crown. And when I look at the model of Roger, of the galaxy, you can see the crown being different than what is marked here. And I see also in the model of the line of goodwill, the crown is just this tiny thing which goes through. So again, it brings me to the question, how adequate is this translation of crown into this clear-cut kind of road as we see it here? And even that really grand design, and I like it how it sits in that aerial zoom, has its difficulty of reacting appropriately with the crown. So is there anything more? You just said it would just go over the crown, but that can't really be it. There must be more interaction.
It will be a node. I can't tell you everything because anyway, I'm not an architect. But first of all, the crown will be the main corridor for all these people living in it. So that node will come out with a lot of traffic already. Then you have this conflict with all the visitors passing it, which has to have some very intelligent way that they don't allow to move into that corridor.
Could I have a mic? I want to
But there will also be because it will take some time before you reach to that point. So there will be temporary phases where there will be roads coming in because if you don't build right there the first years, the crown road will just pass by, and then there will be temporary phases with the roads connecting in from that point. The main problem comes when this transport system, which have been talking about for many years, it was a tram earlier, if there's a modern way to do it, that will cross it in some way. That will be another problem. Yeah.
I think that my understanding is this is a kind of dreamweaving for the Crown. So I think that when we bring this project here, we're bringing a big element for you for your dreamweaving. How can these two things work together harmoniously? In our dreamweaving, there is definitely the feeling that it would be just wonderful, because we live in a very flat landscape, if this can be a hill for us, and that you would be able to start at the low end and walk all the way up to the high end, right? That it would add some whole dimension to our city life. And that, so these things all imply the public transit system, the very fact of it being an entry point also for all the Aurovillians, or I won't say the Aurovillians, I'll say the residents of Auroville. There are more than just Aurovillians living here. On all these things imply that that is a super crucial spot where a great deal of thought has to be put. You know, like, what's going to happen when the residents all turn up on their electric bikes? Where are they going to go? You know, because they're certainly not going to start driving up. We don't want to have any more vehicles beyond the Crown, right? That would really be the end point. So we don't have an answer to your question. In a way, it's kind of this is throwing it open to you. How can you weave in all these elements that are implied by this development into a really practical, but really also very beautiful and meaningful way of these two intersections, this intersection, right? Thank you.
I'll just add that if the reception building comes fast, that means the existing road system will disappear. That means that people's access to Matrimandia will actually come from the Crown Road. So already at that stage, the Crown Road gets very important to take the load of traffic in. Is that enough?
Super important that we should get it to the point that it's not the kind of traffic that goes down that road now. That's really important in your dreaming, you know, to ensure that that is not the kind of traffic that's going to continue. That's really important.
Yeah, for me personally, yeah, okay. I was never against the galaxy in a large city or a township, but the way we are growing has to always keep in touch with the inner growth. And this balance, even on the ecological front of all the fronts, is for me always the centerpiece, not the details. Because I feel in that personally, I feel in that project, it could be an amazing learning field of all the complexities of to build a city. And as such, it would be a research project for me. Not for the end only, but the way we are going about. And when I read through Anupama's brochure about this thing, which is the one I have, where she talks about community building and then proposing this project, when you take it serious, then we have only to find the ways how to go in phases and keeping pace with what we can do, and not going too fast, keeping up with the world outside, which is progressing in an incredible pace towards the next world war or the next crash, financially or ecologically. So that's what I mean when I see such a project now in relationship to our growth. And that is also battle which we had just the last weeks and the last years, actually, always between people for development, but what development, in which way, how fast, and how much, of course, to make an effort to go for that, and to have always the goodwill to integrate all these different facets, but very critically. And then I find it is it's a very interesting project.
Can I don't know what the question, but I can answer it anyway. I would say development in Auroville has always been a chicken and egg situation. That we say there are no people coming, so why should we build? I have always said development is actually always opposite. If you build, people will come. And I come from the development sector. I'm actually an economist and specialize in economic and social development. You always prepare the thing and it will come. I can tell you, many people would like to come. Also, very good people would like to come to Auroville if there was a possibility to stay here. So it is linked to building houses. And I'm not saying you should build 8,000 in one go. Auroville will not be able to handle that in any way. But you could at least plan it in phases so you had a kind of reasonable development that could. And I'm sure the people would come. It's always been that. I think they all. Okay, Peter.
I know that, but for example, water, we were just talking about it, and looking at the reality where we are and really facing it. This is not yet in this projection, all these thoughts are not integrated.
It's a Dreamweaving project in itself, Peter. We have only prepared the ground for it. To define this project and to building is a Dreamweaving process in itself, much bigger than the Crown Group. And it's a hugely complex thing. It's very beautiful because, as Judith said, it's not one village. It actually will be many villages in one building. And it's not one building. It's not a wall building. It's actually penetrable in many ways. So it's a way to build a concentrated building with villages inside. And that's a huge Dreamweaving project in itself, which could take all the architects of Auroville for years to design.
I also want to emphasize again what I said when I was making my presentation. From the beginning, we have been considering that this should be something really extraordinary in terms of things of dealing like with water, with energy. It has to be totally sustainable. And we'll never find a way to do it unless we set out and make an experiment that here is a project of this dimension on which we are setting these parameters and these standards for ourselves right from the beginning. Not merely in the final building, but in the execution. This has been an integral part of this project from day one.
Socially sustainable.
And socially sustainable also. Okay?
Yeah, I'm here, Mona here, Torkil here.
Hi, Mona.
Hi. I want to thank you, Torkil and Louis, Jaya, Judith. I think it is my first presentation that I'm seeing on this project. And I'm touched by your sincerity, by your aspiration, and everything that you've put into it. I think it's something, you can see that there is sincerity and there is goodwill. And I think I'm a bit confused because yesterday we saw a presentation from Anupama and it looked as if the project was like done, as architects, that's what we perceive. I know, but because there are, exhibitions on it, presentations on it, and I got the impression it's quite far in its development. Now I hear today that even the DDP is not there, even though you had this person from Mumbai doing something. But it gives me great hope that a lot of other architects can be involved in this and that it can be phased out, and how you're looking at the first 4 floors being in earth construction, and so there is a lot of things that I heard today, which is I think very hopeful, and hopefully the Dreamweaving will take this. It's a big challenge for us how the Crown and such buildings are going to intersect, because also in the industrial zone we have lines of force which
they
have,
also, it's the only one. The other lines are not
right.
crossing.
So that's quite complex, and I hope that we will be able to kind of tease out some of the elements and put this together. So I just wanted to thank you.
I think it's my hope that I feel we have been planning for 10 years and we have been planning too much simply, and we are getting so tired of each other planning that I come from the development sector, and we normally have 6 months develop. We also do participatory planning when we do development project in the world, but it has to come to an end, because you can plan too much. You have to plan well, I'm sure, but when you start building, there's a long process. You have to weave it together again, because you can't plan everything from start. I think in Auroville we have the feeling that we are such a demand that we should do it perfect, that we want to design it so perfectly, and we can't. It's simply not possible. At one certain stage we say, enough planning, we have to start. I'm not saying planning should not continue and we should start weaving it intelligently together, but you can't keep on being in a planning phase. You get tired and you start biting.
Yes. Yeah, thank you for the presentation. I feel, understanding what you're trying to say, it's almost like a design process to bring guidelines. So when you start working on the divisions, it's clear what are guidelines to make all of the buildings in harmony.
Could be another Dreamweaving project for you.
And I see this as a good exercise. And it is just that today I will be repeating the same statement again. Maybe what Peter was trying to say, what is missing is always the integrative. And when you said several architects working, I even feel we have seen amazing presentations on energy, on trees, on water, and the experts coming. I'm not even saying 5-6 architects, but on one table, all the experts coming to create this integrative. And I feel the right attitude is not to sit back and say that it's not integrative. The right attitude is for all the experts to come and engage, instead of saying, no, it's not integrative. And then maybe if this is the attitude that we have in Auroville, maybe actually we will have several examples that show highest level of all of these fields coming together. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.